is Representative Tendrich, who will present HB 615, Individual Education Plans. Representative, you are recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and Ranking Member. Sorry for my voice. I have lost it this week. Thank you so much for hearing HB 615 today regarding Individualized Education Plans, also referred to as IEPs. For those who may not be familiar with IEPs, they are federal requirements under the Individuals with Disabilities Act. An IEP outlines the specialized instruction, supports, and services an exceptional student needs to succeed in school, including specific accommodations like read out loud and services like speech therapy to ensure they make progress in general curriculum alongside their peers. HB 615 makes the special education process easier for parents and students by reinforcing federal timelines for evaluations and IEP meetings, improves parental communication, and increases transparency around services. This is my bill.
Very well. Having explained her bill, do we have any questions? Do I see Representative Hinson's hand up over there? I'm not sure. Seriously, I'm not sure. Are you okay? Representative Hinson, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm sorry I didn't ask you this last night, but it came to me after all the conversation on the last bill. How are you going to ensure that school districts have the resources necessary to complete the, the evaluation of all this?
Well,
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These are federal requirements that they're already required to do.
Follow-up, Representative?
Yes, it's a fiscal thing I'm asking about, and we were just talking about fiscal. Is there a fiscal in your bill?
You're recognized.
No, there's not.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Do we have any further questions? Representative Blanco, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Tendrich, one of the issues with the IEP for me, and we have representatives from Miami-Dade Public Schools here if they have to chime in, but from what I understand, our IEPs are done at our public schools and not at our charter schools or not at our private schools. Those IEPs are only done by public schools. I see somebody shaking their head yes and no, so I think we're on the same page here. You know, my concern ultimately is everything defaults back to public schools, everything. And while the timelines, I love what you're doing and I support what you're doing, the timelines, how is this going to impact our public schools? Have you had conversations? Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Sorry for that.
You're recognized.
There's also a strike all amendment. So, but I will say that this applies to both public and charter schools. And also these timelines are reasonable. So when it comes to the 30 and 60 days, those are federally enforced. We're just reinforcing federal laws. So we're not changing anything with that. Those are already required. When it comes to the 5-day time period for, the parents to be notified if a service was not provided to their student, a lot of parents are not finding out that the IEP services are being missed by the student is missing that IEP service. And the parents really want to know if they are not getting that service for their child. And that is where the 5 days comes in. So that is, the burden is not on the teacher. It's actually on the administrator or the school staffing specialist. And what that does is it gives them 5 school days to just notify them if the service provider was not there. The 15 days, the teachers already provide progress logs, but sometimes the parents are getting them 2 months after the request. And so this just gives a 3-week time period for the teachers to be able to provide the progress logs to the parents in a more timely manner so they can get the information about their student, which they're entitled to.
You have a follow-up? Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I understand what the bill is for. And I keep thinking we're pushing more onto our schools and teachers, more deadlines, and not all parents are created equal. I think there's a responsibility there that we need to make sure that we're enforcing as well. But my question is, and maybe this is not for all school districts, so I don't want to assume I can only speak on behalf of the one that I've gotten to know, and I'm married to a beautiful educator from Miami-Dade Public Schools, where the IEPs are only provided by public schools, so not by charter schools. And I would love if anybody knows different, but did you find that to be the case with the schools that you spoke to, that charter schools are doing IEPs as well? Because from what I understand, they don't even, there's no charter school for kids with learning disabilities. So, let's have an honest conversation if we're going to talk about this. Sorry.
You're recognized.
Charter schools also have IEP plans for their students.
So we can get to more clarification later, and we'll get all of your questions answered, members. Representative Blanco, a follow-up? No? Okay. Representative Gerwig, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is there anything in your bill that does not line up with, that is not required by the federal government?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So basically what this bill does is it takes the federal regulations, but the federal regulations don't necessarily mean that they're happening locally. So we're now making sure there's a streamlined process for local enforcement. So what this does is this takes what is supposed to be what's supposed to happen and actually make it streamlined. So we have parents who can actually access their kids' records to make sure that they're informed if their child is actually getting the services. The parents are very much frustrated in this process. I've had parents cry and scream about what they're having to do just to make sure their children get the services they need. And so this is really to help the parents. It's a very challenging process, especially if you have a child with an exceptional child and you're working 2 jobs, or it's a very hard process. So what this does is has the parent orientation that helps the parents navigate the system better. It also has the requirement where now the parents are going to be informed if they miss their IEP services, not the accommodations. So let's say it's read aloud in class. The classroom accommodations are not included in this. It's only the services like speech therapy. So a provider comes and does a service. So we actually adjusted that to make sure that the burdens are removed from the teacher, and it's a little easier for the school administration because we did talk with a lot of the schools and teachers who work with IEPs. And so that was a much more streamlined way for the schools to be able to manage that. I did have a lot of conversations with a number of parents who have IEP children with IEPs, and they said that this would have made a world of difference in their students' success and outcomes.
Thank you.
Can I follow up?
Follow up? Please.
So if we're not disagreeing with anything that's already federally required, we're really just bringing it to the forefront, correct?
You're recognized.
We're adding the timelines for the parent communication to make sure that the parents have access to their children's information in a timely manner.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Representative? Okay, before we go back to second bites of the apple, let me just point out for a point of clarification. I think we're getting the evaluation processes and the IEP processes sort of jumbled up. They're 2 separate processes. Public school districts are responsible for evaluation, but IEP does fall onto the charter schools as well. They're very much responsible for those processes, just as a point of clarification. Representative Hinson, you are recognized in debate. Excuse me, in questions.
So my question was going to be to clarify that public school districts are required to do the evaluations. They do have to do the IEPs, but the evaluations fall on the public schools. My question is, the new timeline, is it going to be the same for voucher school students as it is for public school students? And will everything be equally distributed between voucher schools, public schools?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill only applies to public and charter schools.
Follow up?
Oh.
You're recognized.
I think I need a little clarity now. So charter schools are not voucher schools?
They are not.
But charter schools receive voucher?
No, ma'am.
All righty then.
But we could have further discussion after committee. Yes. Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. So we do have an amendment on HB 615. And we will now take up amendment barcode 201883. You are recognized to explain your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm really going to go into a little bit more detail on each component of the bill now. One, it reinforces the federal timelines to complete an initial evaluation and convene an IEP team meeting. It requires the school administrators or staffing specialists to notify parents within 5 school days when required IEP service is missed. For instance, when the provider is absent, and then share plans for makeup services with the parent. This could either be done through a portal or any written communication. This takes the burden off of the teachers and only applies to services like speech therapy, but not read out loud services that are classroom accommodations. I have heard from parents that they're not informed when their children do not receive their IEP services, and they really should be. It strengthens parent access by guaranteeing parents receive their child's service logs within 15 days of receiving the request, which is 3 weeks, which is reasonable, especially when some parents have waited 2 months to receive those logs. It ensures parents receive an individualized orientation when their child is newly identified as eligible for exceptional student education services. And this is really important because this process is really hard to navigate, and it really will also help with parent engagement with their students and better outcomes for the IEP child. And also, each district will then develop a standardized service log to improve consistency to use throughout the district. And this is because multiple teachers are using different logs, and after talking to a few, it might be easier just to have a standard across the whole school district. So it's just one seamless process. And so that is why the bill matters. And like I mentioned, the federal law sets the standards, but we do have to enforce them locally. And parents are having a really hard time navigating the IEP process. And so I know everyone involved truly wants what's best for these exceptional children, but this bill will help us get there. So it just really provides clearer timelines, better access to information, documentation when services are missed, and real guidance for parents so they can better navigate the system. It will truly lead to stronger parental engagement and, most importantly, better outcomes for our children. That is my amendment. Thank you.
Having explained her amendment, we are now in questions. Any question on the amendment? Questions on the amendment? Representative Gerwig, you're recognized.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure which part is being amended with your amendment. I'm confused on the presentation. I apologize.
Please explain. Thank you.
It was just a strike all amendment.
This is, right, it's basically a strike all. Okay, so we got into a little more detail. Any further questions on the amendment? No? Okay. Do we have public testimony on the amendment? We do not. Do we have any debate on the amendment? Very well. Seeing none, you are recognized to close on. Ooh, okay, you got it in. Representative Lopez, you are recognized in debate on the amendment.
Very fast, okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Congratulations for the bill. Thank you for making the call, tried to explain to me, and we were late talking about your bill, and you also have a personal story that also make the bill even more relevant. You're not only the legislator of this bill, but also as a mother, And, as a teacher, I saw how important it is for our parents to understand the IEP, because most of the time, because we did not have something, we think that is not needed, or maybe we think that because we don't know how to navigate, sometimes we try to find help, but outside of the school. But over here, the bill is putting a structure and a timeline in looking for eligibility, but also to communicate with parents so they can work as a team with the school and make the students successful. I think it's a great idea. I highly appreciate this bill. I'll be up, and congratulations.
Okay, do we have any further debate on the amendment? Very well, seeing none, you are recognized to close on your amendment.
Waive close.
Members, those in favor of the amendment signify by saying yay.
Yay.
All those opposed by no. By your vote, the amendment has been adopted. We are now on the amended bill. Are there any questions as amended? Very well, seeing none. Is there any testimony on the amended bill? And we do have some appearance cards. We have Raymond Munoz, who would like to speak before our committee. And Raymond is going to make his way up here. He is a proponent of the bill, and he is representing himself. Raymond, welcome to our committee. You are recognized.
Good evening, state representatives. My name is Raymond Munoz, and I am an ESC student that attends Emerald Cove Middle School in Palm Beach County. I would like to share with you my story on what happened to me last year in 7th grade. Last year, I had problems with my IEP not being followed in math class. The teacher did not tell me that I could use notes on tests or quizzes. She did not follow my paper-based accommodation and forced me to use Khan Academy, which is a computer-based AI program. Actually, it's a AI math program. This went on for a very long time, even though I told the school and the district about it. It made me feel not smart enough. It made me feel frustrated, depressed, and not good enough to learn to keep up with math. I am also here to speak up for my classmates and all special needs students that are having the same problems in the state of Florida. I kindly ask you to vote yes on this bill so it can pass and help IEP students to learn the way that they need to learn. Lastly, it would allow them to succeed in life. Thank you for your time. God bless you all.
Thank you, Raymond.
You're welcome.
And Raymond, I got a feeling you're going to succeed in life.
Thank you.
We are going to hear from Raymond's mother, Mrs. Munoz. Maybe not hear from her, but she is a proponent of the bill. Oh, we are going to hear from her. Okay. Mrs. Munoz, thank you for being here, and you are recognized.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, Ranking Member, and State Representatives. I am here today as a parent and a concerned citizen of the state of Florida. I am Mrs. Munoz, Raymond Munoz's mom. IEP implementation continues to be a serious problem in our state. Too often, parents are kept in the dark and not fully informed of their rights and services their children with disabilities are legally entitled to receive. I want to share our family's experience. In 2022, my son Raymond entered the Florida public school system. When he was enrolled, we submitted extensive medical documentation confirming multiple disabilities, including autism. Despite this, the district failed to properly evaluate him. Instead, they relied only on his speech records and labeled him with a speech impairment, severely limiting all of the needs and accommodations he needed to learn. For 7 months in 5th grade, Raymond was placed in the wrong setting without accommodations that he needed and fell further behind. When I learned that autism could only be listed as his primary eligibility after a full psychological evaluation, I was told the district process would take 1 year. Raymond was transitioning into middle school, and we did not have that time. Our family paid out of pocket for a private psychological educational evaluation. We made sure the psychologist had the same credentials as the district psychologist, as the evaluation would not be accepted by the school district otherwise. The evaluation was completed in a whole 2 days. Only then was the autism diagnosis recognized as Raymond's full eligibility, and only then did the IEP open doors to support his needs. The school psychologist did agree with all the findings. Even now, his IEP is not constantly followed, and advocacy has resulted in retaliation both for my son and myself from the school and the district. Through this journey, I have spoken with over hundreds of parents across 13 Florida counties facing similar or worse experiences, many unaware of their rights or lack of resources to advocate. This is why I am here. Parents deserve transparency, children deserve accountability, and students with disabilities deserve an education that does not depend on a parent's ability to advocate. In other words, parents, they shouldn't have to second guess the fact that their taxpayer dollars are not going to properly teach their children, let alone their most vulnerable children that unfortunately, well, not fortunately, but have IEPs. And we all know that that's a struggle for parents. Parents deserve to ultimately trust the school district in this process. And this is why we're here, to build awareness on that. I respectfully ask you to support this bill, and Florida families are counting on your leadership to help our children. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. We'll now hear from Laura Lee Montello, representing Disability Rights Florida. Waves in support. Maybe we won't hear from her, but she waves in support. Oh, she waves in support, exactly. That's right in front of me. Okay. Elizabeth Ladkani, representing herself, waves in opposition. Amber Wiggins, representing herself, is an opponent of the bill and wishes to appear. Ms. Wiggins, you are recognized as soon as you get to the mic.
Thank you. As you said, I'm Amber Wiggins. I am a dual certified teacher, so I am ESE and general education. I've been doing ESE for about 4 years. I'm also a very weird trifecta where I have a husband and a son who are both autistic, so we are very aware of the IEP process and the process to make sure that they can get on an IEP, as well as I work with the CARD conference or the CARD advocates, and I advocate with them as well. I'm struggling, and I'm on the opposition of this, not because of what it is entailing. I think it's very much trying to make sure that we are following all the laws that we fought very hard through the Civil Rights for Disabilities to enact. My concern is that while we say it's not going to fall on the teachers or the educators, a lot of these roles that we're saying it is going to fall on are not the ones that are doing it in the classrooms. They are not the ones that do the paperwork, as well as we're taking a lot of the responsibility away from the parents. We want them involved. We want to communicate with them. So I struggle with where that bridge is going to be and where the resources are going to come from. Special education is one of the lowest resource areas that we can ask more of, especially for a self-contained unit that's going to have multiple IEPs. So I would like to see this be revised. with those understandings of the different pieces, it can be more than one person that's going to have to make this successful. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your service as a teacher. Very well, this ends our public testimony. We are now in debate on the amended bill. Do we have any members wishing to debate? Representative Gerwig, you're recognized.
Representative Tendrich, thank you for bringing this. This is important, and I have met with his family at the office at home, and I just want to thank them for bringing their story up here. And I recognize that there are questions about what we're actually doing with the bill, but I feel like the timeline of accountability is what's getting added, and I support you in doing that. So thank you for doing this hard work. I know it's hard. I know it's hard for the families. I know it's hard for the teachers and the students. So we don't want to delay that. So thank you for this great bill.
Thank you, Representative. We will now go to Representative Michael. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative. My school board members, some of them, were here yesterday, and I actually texted them your bill and asked for what do they think about this. And I do that with most bills. And one of the school board members came back and said she loves it. She actually has a Gold Star mom that is having problems right now accessing her child's IEP information. And so I think you have fans in Duval. So thank you for this bill.
Thank you, Representative. We will now go to Representative Hinson. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we had a conversation last night, and at the time I was trying to plan for my own bill and committees. So I think I did tell you, and I want to share it with everyone. I'm a former placement specialist before moving through other positions. But after the staffing specialist writes the IEP and schedule the necessary services that they feel the child needs from the psychological evaluation, that staffing specialist expects the school and the therapist that they provide services to, we send that to the different people so that they can schedule the child into the services. Then the staffing specialist has no more contact with that. I think it falls upon the teacher sometimes to make sure they get their services. For my daughter, she was really an advocate, and I don't mean in the best way, about getting services for her child, as well as the guidance counselor. It shouldn't fall on them either. So when I ask you about fiscal, I think my question really is, who's going to facilitate the timeline? Because there is no role, and it should be, for this service. There should be someone who facilitates the IEP. Shouldn't be the guidance counselor. We've already had a bill about that today. The guidance counselor needs to counsel. Shouldn't be the teacher, and the teacher needs to teach. And it makes the parent not to be the advocate, and that shouldn't, and that's who it is. It's falling on the parent, and really it shouldn't. So my question still is, and I think I brought it up, I did not want to feel like I was, being too inquisitive. There has to be a fiscal to implement this, because as I see it right now, there is no one in that role, and there needs to be. That's my debate. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative. We will now go to Representative Hodgers. You are recognized in debate, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank you, first of all, for bringing this bill. This one hits home for me. I know you reached out yesterday, and I appreciate that. My son was 3 when we went through this process, and it is a very difficult process to get through. And he is now 5, and because of this IEP, he's doing amazing. He got his IEP while in a private school because obviously he was too young to be in a public school at the time. So he now is in a public school, still has that IEP, and he's doing great with it. So I appreciate your efforts on this bill. And to my understanding, the public schools are utilizing these IEPs, both with charter schools as well as private schools, at least in my county. I can't speak for every county. So I really appreciate this bill, and I'm definitely up on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.